Okay, great. So hello and welcome to this amazing session with our co-hosts, Juan and Chris. So thanks for coming, both of you. So first of all, before starting, please remember to put your first name and last name along with your country of residence so we can identify you. And then if you have any questions, feel free to ask them through our chat box that we have on Zoom. And then later on, Juan and Chris will go through the questions after their presentation, okay? So Juan, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead.
Very well. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining. Thanks very much, Alex and Emilia, for having us, for letting us give you this this presentation on how to ace your GRE test and also your TOEFL test. My name is Juan Rodriguez, as as Alex was saying. And let me just give you a little overview on what this presentation is going to be about. Of course, the main section, sorry, I'm not able to change. There you go. Sorry about that. Right, so what we're going to cover on this session, right? So I'll give you a little overview of the GRE for those of you that might as well not know that much about it. I'm going to go on with some registration tips, some tips and strategies on how to ace it. That's the core section of this presentation. Then tell you a little bit about when you get your scores and about sending them to your institutions that you want them to have them. I'll tell you a little bit about the tools that we offer to help you prepare for it, since it's something we get asked a lot about. I'll tell you a little bit about some GRE resources that we also offer, and a little exclusive offer for EISE students that might as well interest you as well. And we have a little bit of time after that, some sample questions from the test. I really hope we do have time for that, but we'll see about that. All right, so let's just jump right into it. This is a little overview of the GRE test. As you might as well know already, this test is used around the world for accessing and being accepted for all kinds of graduate programs. I mean, it can be master programs, specialized masters in business, MBAs, programs in law, and so on and so forth. Something beautiful about the test is that the scores are good for 5 years. So perhaps, say you take your test, you ace it, you get accepted to the program you want to enter, and then after you're done, you want to pursue a PhD, you want to perhaps do another master, something related to what you studied, you're going to be able to use the same scores for that application, since they're going to still it will still be valid. So that's something wonderful that we offer. This over here, what we have, it's a little overview of the MBA page of IESE and the GRE scores that are accepting / expecting for the sections of the GRE based on your application. If you're not very familiar with this scores and the sections, I'll tell you a little more about it. If you, of course, have any questions, please just write them down in the chat. Okay, so the GRE test is accepted. And it's available on a continuous basis all around the world in more than 160 countries and more than 1,000 test centers on a continuous basis along the year. So you guys can write it. You guys can take it up to 5 times per year. And you only have to wait a period of 21 days between attempts if you want to take them. This test center-based test is delivered on a desktop computer with a full screen monitor and a keyboard. And you can check the test center locations and availability on this website shown here. If that is not convenient enough for you, we also offer the at-home version of the GRE test, which is available worldwide from the comfort of your home. And the test is entirely identical to the test-centered version of the GRE in terms of content, in terms of format, in terms of fees and payment options, the scores, the scales, the score reports, everything is exactly the same. It's quite accessible with extended time, extra breaks, screen magnifications. And you might as well be wondering if this can be done from your house, from your home. How is it going to be monitored? How is it going to be checked? Well, it is monitored and recorded online through the use of human-like proctors and this AI technology, also called ProctorU. Okay, so now let's jump into the structure of the test. The GRE test is made. It consists on 3 parts: the analytical writing part, the verbal reasoning part, and the quantitative reasoning part. The analytical writing consists of 1 section with 2 tasks and 30 minutes per task. The verbal reasoning consists in 2 sections, 20 questions per section and 30 minutes per section, and so does the quantitative reasoning part. It's just 35 minutes per section, and you can see on the right what each of these sections assesses. And of course, yeah, the approximate time of the testing of the test is 3 hours and 45 minutes plus your time breaks. Now, something very important for us here at ETS is that the test taker feels safe and comfortable while taking the test. We know it can be quite a stressful process, quite a stressful moment. So we pay close attention to make it very test taker friendly in design and in structure anyhow. So this, what you see over here is a sample of what a question screen looks like, and it contains several very useful features for the test takers to use and feel comfortable with it. Like on the top part of your screen, you can see there is a little button for each of the options that you have. You have a calculator that you can use for the quantitative part. There's this option to mark your questions. There's this part to like review all the questions that that you have answered already, to review all the parts of the section. And these 2 buttons, the back and next, are for you to navigate through the section freely. You can go back to questions that you left unanswered. You can skip to questions that might as well I don't know, you want to like find easier to answer later on, and so on. So it's very important to bear in mind these tools that we offer. Now, okay. Also, something very important to mention about the verbal reasoning and the quantitative reasoning sections is that they're section level adaptive. What does this mean? This basically means that depending on how you perform on one of them, the first section of these 2 parts of the test, the next section is going to offer you more or less challenging questions for you to answer. Something quite important, of course, is that within each section, all the questions have an equal amount of value for your final score. And well, keep in mind that both sections are important. Like both questions add up to the score at the end. It is also very important to bear in mind that no points are deducted from your score for wrong answers. So it's always better to answer each of the questions, even if you have to guess what the answer might as well be. Right over here, you can see a more visual representation of how this section level adaptation works. As you can see, for instance, you get some moderately challenging content on the first section. So you perform very well. On the second section, you're going to get more challenging content, more challenging questions. And depending on that, you're going to get, well, of course, a higher score. And it works vice versa if you perform perhaps a little you prefer less well on the first section, you're going to get less challenging content on the next section. Okay, so that is more or less what the structure is about. So before jumping into the strategies, let me tell you a couple of things about registration, some tips. Something very, very important is for you to register early, register as early as possible. That way you can get your preferred testing locations, date and time. You can, of course, create a preparation plan focused on your needs, on your test date and timing. In order to register, you're going to need to create an ETS account and following our website. And this account, you're going to be using it to register for the test, of course, for checking your official scores once they're ready. And you can also sign up for the GRE search service in order to schools, to help schools find you. If you need, of course, also some accommodations, you're going to be able to request them through your ETS account. And they, of course, have to be approved before your registration. Okay, so either if you want to apply for the the home base, at home GRE test or the test-centered based version, you're going to have to go through this registration website, which is quite easy, quite self-explanatory. This is what it looks like. Pretty much everything you have to do is click on the blue button right over there and follow the on-screen instructions. That's actually quite simple and easy to do. Of course, if you have, again, if you have any questions, please write them on the chat. And I'll be glad to answer them in regards of this. So now let's just move on to the strategies on how to ace your GRE test. So first of all, the most important thing is to have an actual personalized strategy in order to know how to approach the test in your own personal way. For this, of course, you have to get familiar with the test. You have to be able to know what's the test going to be about, which I'll tell you how to prepare a little bit later. Also, something very important is you remember like those little buttons on that sample page of the test that I showed you. Make use of those tools. Make use of all these functionalities that we offer. Make sure you can change. Make sure that you mark questions. Make sure to navigate freely through the sections. If you skip questions, make sure to click on the review button to see if any of them remained unanswered. Really make sure that you use these options. That's really helpful at the moment of taking the test. Now, also some general tips and strategies. Please become familiar with the question formats and directions before taking the test. That comes the part of preparing for it. You don't really want to waste any time during your test while trying to figure out what you're being asked, what are you expected to answer, and so on. So make sure you're familiar with the questions before that. Also be aware of the time, right? You're going to have a little clock there on your test screen, which you can always consult. You can always have present, or if that makes you feel a little bit nervous, you can also like hide it. So be aware of the time. Make sure to understand what you're being asked, and make sure to read the possible multiple choice answers for each question, right? And once again, answer every question, even if it's a guess. Do not leave any questions blank. And sure, you also use some knowledge that you might as well have, perhaps from your prior experience, from your bachelor's, from your even high school knowledge, to answer some of the questions. This is also very important, something that will be very helpful for you guys. Some other tips and strategies, like do not waste any time on questions that might as well seem to be a bit more difficult. There are no questions with a greater value than others. And of course, as I was telling you, check the review screen before proceeding to another section, so you make sure that you answered all of your questions. Now for the analytical writing part, we offer on our website some material, some content that tells you what the readers are expecting you to write on your essays. So make sure you consult that, so you know exactly what to write, what we're expecting you to write, what you're going to assess. Please practice writing under time conditions, so you get used to this kind of format of examination. Organize your thoughts, prepare a little outline, and of course, once you're done writing, leave a few minutes before proceeding to reread what you have written, and perhaps make any necessary amendments, and remain professional, remain academic, avoid some excessive irony or humor that might as well be misinterpreted by the readers. That's something very important to bear in mind in terms of the analytical writing section. Now for the verbal reasoning part, just answer exactly what the passage says. Do not rely on any outside knowledge. Please identify words or phrases that might as well seem particularly significant. Bear that in mind. For the quantitative reasoning section, bear in mind over here that once again, we do not want to assess if you can make lengthy calculations, if you can perform like very complex operations. What we want to check is if you're good with numbers, if you can work with numbers and with these results, if you can interpret them anyhow. So please avoid these lengthy calculations. If you can round up numbers, do so. If you can if you notice a pattern that you can follow, do so, and so on. And of course, after arriving to an answer, reread the question and see if your answer is reasonable given what has been asked. Okay, so that's pretty much some general strategies that I can just give you right now. Of course, if you have any other questions, I remind you, please write them on the chat. And now let's jump into some stuff about getting your scores at the moment of getting scores and sending them to the institutions that you want to. Okay, so the GRE sections report the scores in the following way with the following scales. So the analytical writing section, the score comes from 1 to 6 with a half-point increment. So you might as well get up 4.5, 5, or 5.5, and so on. And for the remaining 2 sections, for the verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning, the scores goes from 130 to 170 with 1 point in increment, right? You can get 157, 158, 160, and so on as a score. Now, once you've gotten once you're done with the exam, with the test, you're gonna get your official, your unofficial GRE test score. It'll show you, well, your final score on the verbal and quantitative parts. It'll show you, well, how much you got, and of course, it will not show you the score of the analytical writing section because that part has to be read. It has to be checked, and your official scores are going to be ready. Are going to be reported in about 10 to 15 days after you took the test, perhaps a little shorter than that. And you will be able to check these to see them on your ETS account website. There you will find your score reports that include all the scores of your reportable history, like any attempts of you taking a GRE for the past 5 years. You can print from there a personal copy of your score report. And your scores are also reported to the institutions that you have designated to get the scores on your test day or prior to that. And of course, the analytical writing essays that you wrote are also available for these institutions to review. Now, also, once you're done with your test, you will be able to check the GRE diagnostic service page also through your ETS account, and this will show you how you performed on particular sections, and of course on certain questions. If you got them wrong, if you're right, of course, how difficult were they, like what difficulty level they had, how challenging they were, and the time spent on this, of course. This will give you some important information if you want to attempt once again with the test later on, and so on. So make sure that you check this out once you're done with your test. Okay, so now something that it's also very useful and that we get asked a lot all the time is, how can you prepare? Like, what tools do we offer for you to prepare? First of all, for these tools are first two tools that I'm going to tell you about are for free, and you can access them as well through your EDS account, and they're the Power Prep test tools. This contain information to help you familiarize with the question types, the test features, and the things that you're actually going to encounter during the GRE test. Once again, this is a crucial part of the process, since you really need to get familiar. You need to get familiar with this kinds of tasks that you're going to face during the exam. This can be accessed through the My Test Preparation and Services section of your EDS account. Please visit the website shown there for more information about it. You also get two Power Prep practice tests, which are actually the actual GRE tests that you are going to encounter. Like the first of these is not timed. It's going to be the exact same test that you're going to be presenting, just for you to make sure that you know how it works, what are you going to encounter, and so on. And the other test that you can access is going to be timed, which are going to be like actual real test conditions. This, of course, will help you to understand what's being tested. You get familiar with the testing tools. You get familiar with the little things that I told you that it will be very helpful to use during during the test. You understand what scoring is like, and you will be able to also review scored analytical writing responses and readers' comments. That will help you prepare for that section in particular. So those tools are very, very important. Here are some other some additional material that comes with a prize. Is this other tools that are quite well, can be quite helpful for you to prepare for the test. Some books and writing well, sample materials. If you need more information about this, please ask in the chat and or consult the website. Now, right over here, we also have this tool right over here called the GRE Mentor online course. It's a new, novel, and very nice. It's available as of July 2022, and it includes more than 600 authentic practice questions and answers, plus some other like skill building content. This is great. You can access it anytime, anywhere, on your tablet, while you commute, on your smartphone. It is great to offer some flexibility for you to prepare. You can prepare a particular plan on how to prepare, how to train for the test, or you can just train for it for some particular modules that you might as well think that you need more attention, you need to put more attention to, you need more practice on. So this will really help you improve and get ready for the test. This one comes with a price, which is $100, and you can find it as well online. Now, this is the part that we offer in gratitude to IESE. Students from IESE will receive a $30 off discount for the GRE test if they register by November the 18th this year and take the test before September the 30th, 2023. There are only 50 places available, so it's on a first come, first serve basis. And you can register for the test and use the discount code IESE30. That's IESE30. You can use the GRE code to access it. And that's, as I was saying, something to show our appreciation to your institution. So that is pretty much it on my from my side. Presentation. If you need more information, please consult our website, or please feel free to contact me. I'll be more than happy to answer all of your questions. I think that should be it. So I'll hand it over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Juan. I'll just go ahead and share my screen real quick. And there we go. Thank you, Juan, for that wonderful presentation about the GRE test and also for the $30 discount. That's hard to follow, but I'm going to try to do it. A big thank you to Alex and Amelia also for inviting me to do this presentation. So we're going to shift gears a little bit and move from the GRE to the TOEFL test. My name is Chris Osman. I'm the TOEFL Strategic Partnerships Director at ETS Global. Before moving to the TOEFL program, I was actually involved in university admissions and recruitment. So doing things like this, meeting students like you who are interested in undergraduate and graduate programs. And I'm very happy to be able to talk about the TOEFL test. And of course, if you have any questions, we'll be able to address them at the end. Let's see here. So this is just an overview of what we're going to talk about today. You know, the TOEFL test, what is it? Basically, we're going to go over the test format and futures. We're also going to look at some resources that you can use in order to prepare for the test. We'll have a look at how you can register, and we'll also talk about scoring. What's important about scores, how can you send your scores to IESE once you are finished, and also give you some tips and tricks on how to prepare for the test. So to start off with, what is the TOEFL IBT test? Well, it is one of the major 2 English language proficiency tests that universities accept, and it's globally recognized. It's an academic English test that uses integrated questions to measure all 4 language skills, such as reading, listening, speaking, and writing. And you can take the test at a test center or at home. And notice how I said this thing called integrated questions. What are integrated questions? And we'll go about that a little further in advance. But an integrated question is basically where you will use various skills in reading, listening, speaking, and writing in order to answer a question. So you could be listening to, for instance, a lecture, and then you are taking notes about the lecture, for instance. And then perhaps you need to answer some questions about what the lecture was about, for instance. That's what I mean when I refer to integrated questions. So why choose the TOEFL IBT test? Well, because it's a 100% academic test, meaning that every question that is presented to you is related to a university or university-like setting. It is trusted by admissions offices around the world, such as IESE. And we do see that when students perform very well on the TOEFL test, that there is a large chance that they will actually get accepted into their first or second choice university. Also, if you look at the third one, get a head start over your peers. This is really for our high school students looking into the bachelor's level, meaning that in many cases, because this is a 100% academic test, when they take the TOEFL, this is their first experience, for instance, in a university setting. For our master level students like yourselves that are interested in master programs, this could be valuable feedback that you can receive. For instance, because you are interested in business programs, perhaps you've been working for a long period of time and it's been a while since you've been in academic life. If you do well on the TOEFL, it is a nice reassurance that you are indeed ready for the program. So test your way at a test center at home. So Juan also mentioned some at-home testing options. You can do it as well with the TOEFL IPT test. You can do it at a testing center or you can do it at home. There are some differences. If you go to the testing center, it's what I would call probably in a way the most convenient option because the test center is there. You show up, you show your ID, you go through the identification verification procedure, you sit down, the environment is already secure for you. A proctor is there to help you turn on your test, and then you take your test and then you leave. And that's the test experience at a testing center. Now at the at-home experience, it might be a little different in the sense that you have to use your own equipment. You have to make sure that your internet connection is up to speed. And also because you are being proctored from a live remote human proctor, you have to make sure that your environment is secure, that you can show it around in order to just show that you don't have any perhaps phones or anything around the room. But it is the added convenience that you can do it at home. And also in terms of the registration, there are a few there's quite a few more registration options available to you because, as you can see from the screen, there's registrations 24/7, 4 days a week, for instance. And for registrations, we'll go a little bit more detail later on in the presentation. So now let's move into the test format and feature. So what does the TOEFL IBT test essentially look like? What can you expect? So when you take the test, we always start with the reading section. This will be 3 to 4 reading passages, 10 questions each. This will usually take you between 54 to a maximum of 72 minutes to complete. After which you'll move on to the listening section, 3 to 4 lectures, 6 questions each, 2 to 3 conversations, 5 questions each, which usually will take about 41 to 57 minutes. And remember, the most important thing about all of these sections, but in particular reading and listening, is that the content that you are presented with is very much academic level content. So things that you are, that you probably already had exposure to during your bachelor's level course. So once you finish the reading or listening sections, we have a break for about 10 minutes. And then we move on to the speaking section, which is 4 tasks, 1 independent, 3 integrated. So this is the integrated questions that I mentioned about where you're using all the other skill sets to answer the questions. And then you'll end what we call the desserts, the writing section, which is 2 tasks, 1 integrated and 1 independent for about 50 minutes. And in total, the test is going to take you about 3 hours, for instance. So this is just some more information about the reading section. It's really meant to assess how well you can read and understand the kind of materials used in an academic environment. What's important is that topics do vary, but they are carefully selected to make sure that you do not need to have any prior knowledge of the subject. Information is also presented to you so that you will have all the knowledge that you need in order to answer the question. That is very important. And of course, we also have a glossary feature, which is available to define words not commonly used that you can access during the test. Then after which, this is the listening section. So this is really going to measure your ability to understand conversations and lectures in English. It could be basic comprehension, pragmatic understanding, connecting and synthesizing information. But the important thing here is the structure, in the sense that you will be looking at 3 to 4 lectures. Again, we're in the university environment. There will be some sort of classroom discussion. You might also have 2 to 3 conversations with 2 speakers, for instance. But again, this is tied to perhaps campus life or a university settings, such as what it says, conversations and lectures use campus-based language. So again, we're tying you into the university environment. Then after your break, we move on to the speaking section. This measures your ability to speak English effectively in academic settings. We already went through the structure here, but what's important is that you do respond by speaking into a microphone at the test center. So you are doing the speaking section and the same session that you do the other sections. There's no need to go back to the testing center, much like you would with other tests. Responses are captured by the computer and sent to ETS for scoring. And this is important because the testing center does not rate how well you did. Your speaking section responses are sent anonymously to a central rater, so you know that your responses are going to be rated in a fair and unbiased manner, which might not be the case with other tests, for instance. After which, we move on to the writing section. So this measures your ability to write in English in an academic setting. You have 2 writing tasks. Again, one integrated 20 minutes. This is really when you listen to a short lecture and read a passage. And then you have a 1 independent 30 minutes. This is really how well you can structure a response. Perhaps you're asked to give your personal experience on something, or maybe your opinion on a subject, where you can, have a nice little thesis statement, supporting arguments with a conclusion. And the tip really here is you must be able to present your ideas in a clear, well-organized manner, and responses are typed using the computer keyboard. So how can we prepare for the TOEFL IBT test? Well, the best advice that I always give to students is that we have a ton of free resources available to you, basically. We have a test prep planner. We have a free practice test, which I really recommend everyone to make use of, because you can have some exposure to the types of questions that are asked of you. We also have this wonderful TOEFL IBT MOOC, where it's a self-paced course designed to get you ready for your TOEFL test, and it has very much a more immersive experience. And we also have this TOEFL test preparation, the Insider's Guide. It's free, self-paced. It's designed by the experts who created the TOEFL test. Again, the content includes overview of the test of each section, mix of text, short video lectures. Receive a scaled score range for speaking and writing practice questions. That's a wonderful resource to look into, because when we look at, for instance, IESE's TOEFL requirements, it's 100 to 105, and realistically speaking, in order for you to reach that score, you will need to do well on the writing and speaking sections, which are probably the 2 most important sections for you. So do that. Receive a scaled score range for speaking and writing practice sessions. See where you fit in terms of the score you need. And then, of course, this is something that I really recommend. This is a wonderful video series that you can access on YouTube. We actually have an ETS staff member called Michael Nab who will go through each section with you. And then you can look at question structure. You can look at, he gives you tips on how the raters are going to score you. He'll look at sample responses, and he'll also give you some skill building tips. I mean, this is really a good way. It's a very structured video series that you can go from section to section to section, just to give you a lot more exposure to what the TOEFL IBT test is. And these are free. But after going through these free resources, if you feel like you need a little bit more preparation, then of course we do have paid preparation materials. These are an example of them. You can actually buy TOEFL practice tests that are very comprehensive. You can do the official guide to the TOEFL test. We also have official TOEFL IBT tests that have 5 practice tests and interactive versions. And then, of course, if you want to buy multiple, we do have value packs. Another good resources to use is the app. Within the app itself, you can also register for the test, which we'll go into more detail in a moment. But here you can have access right on your phone to free sample questions, practice tests with automated scoring. This does have an in-app purchase. So if you do purchase that section, you can do practice sections where they'll actually score you so you can see where you are. Then of course, how to register for the test and frequently asked questions. So how do we register? Well, the easiest way to register is using the official app. And when you use the official app to register, you can always find test centers near you. It's also, just as I mentioned before, you have easy access to prep resources, and it's completely free to download from the App Store or Google Play. We also have an extended online registration, meaning that what I always recommend for students, even when I was working in university admissions, is that English language proficiency, that requirement should be one of the first things that you get done. Don't wait until the last second. Do it in advance. But if for whatever reason you miss the dates, you can still register online up to just 2 days before a test. You will be hit with a late registration fee, so do please keep that in mind. And the deadline to reschedule or cancel a test is about 4 days before the test, so also keep that in mind as well. We do have expanded testing options, meaning that we have more choices for test centers now. We now offer afternoon sessions. This helps us double the test take capacity at participating test centers. We have more opportunities to retest if needed, which means that it used to be 12 days that you needed to wait in order to retest if you didn't meet the score requirement. We've reduced that down to 3, and that really helps meet urgent deadlines. And then, of course, with the home edition option that you now have available, there are even more appointment options that you have. When you register for the home edition appointment, just make sure that you can differentiate between the AM and the PM. AM meaning the morning session, PM meaning the afternoon. We had students that thought they registered for a 12 p.m. session, which was actually 12 a.m. and they missed it. So just keep that in mind. So registration is easy. One also mentioned going to the ETS website and creating an account. It's all there. You create your account, you select a test location or the home edition, you pick a date and time. Remember, watch out for the AM and PMs, and you register just 7 days before your test. Good tip, from wherever you are located, be sure to check the ID requirements. When you register with the valid national ID, you need to make sure that you use the name that is on the ID, that is on your registration, and that you bring that same ID with you to the test center. So this is just some quick information how to create your account. It's very self-explanatory, but again, just be sure that your name in your account exactly matches the name of your ID for security purposes. And in your TOEFL account, you can do everything. You can register for a test, you can reschedule an appointment, you can select score recipients. So again, you can select IESE as a score recipient before you take the test. You can use it to buy test materials, view test scores, or if you need to order additional score reports. And you can also update your contact information except your name and date of birth, because these still have to match up to the identity that you used to register for the test. And this is probably the most important part of the registration period, the ID requirements. Just make sure you need to, again, I keep saying this, but you need to use the same name that appears on your primary ID, such as a passport. You need to bring this ID to the test center on test day, because what will happen is when you arrive to the test center, or if you do the at home, they'll ask you to show the ID that you used to register. They're going to take a picture of you, and the picture that they take of you needs to match with the picture that is used on your ID. So this is one of the security protocols that you need to follow as a test taker. And if you can't do some of these two things, it will result in not being able to take the test, or having your scores canceled and forfeiting your test fee. So please do pay attention to this part. You can look at the identification requirements on the TOEFL website. It is by country. So different countries do have different IDs available, just to make sure that the one that you want to use matches that one. If you ever have a question, you can always ask them advance to our Office of Testing and Integrity at the email address listed on the slide. So with that, let's move on to scores. So scoring features and score reporting. As I sort of mentioned before, your two sections, reading and listening, are scored by the computer. Speaking and writing is going to use a mixture of both, scored by human raters and AI. Again, the human rater will score you anonymously. They will not know where you come from. And each section is worth 30 points, with your total score being a sum of all the different sections. So your total score is not an average, like some other tests. That's very important. And like I said, as master level students applying to business programs at IESE, it's incredibly important that you do score well in the speaking section as well as the writing section. So after you take the test, how long do you have to wait for the scores to be released? Well, scores are going to be posted to your ETS account about 6 days after your test. 6 to 10 days for the home edition, basically. Now for IESE, they have access to a certain system, so they might actually receive your scores a little earlier. The scores are valid for 2 years after the test date, just like all of the different TOEFL tests that we offer. The 2 years means that this is the duration of time that ETS can guarantee your English language proficiency. Anywhere after 2 years, then they cannot guarantee it, but it's still up to the admissions officer to decide whether or not they want to accept it. So let's look at some scoring features. So for the reading and listening, we do have some instant scoring. So after you take the test, you can view your reading and listening scores on screen after you complete it. It gives you an early indication of your performance. You will also have the option whether or not you should report your scores to the institutions that you mentioned, in this case, IESE, or if you should cancel your scores at the end of the test. There's really no reason to cancel your scores at the end of the test, but just so that you know the option is there. And just remember, these scores are unofficial because they do go under a final review by ETS. So let's look at the enhanced speaking scoring. So we have added AI technology for the best environment. So AI evaluation by ETS's speech reader service assesses and provides feedback on pronunciation, fluency, vocabulary, and grammar. Again, we use a combination of AI and human raters. All TOEFL IBT speaking responses are rated by both the human rater and the speech rater service. The speaking section score now based on more ratings than before. And of course, we have 4 human ratings plus 4 speech rater ratings. And I need to stress, no other major English proficiency test combines the benefits of AI and human scoring, meaning that you will always be scored fairly in the speaking section. So here are some additional resources in case you need it. We are all on social media. Our social media accounts are always posting different tips and tricks for the TOEFL IBT test, different features. Again, go to the TOEFL TV YouTube channel, find those videos from Michael Knapp, our ETSer, who goes through the section scores with you. That's the best way to get a good introduction of the test, some tips, and what you can expect from the TOEFL IBT test. And that's it. If you need to contact TOEFL, please email us at TOEFL@ets.org. You can call us at the numbers provided. If you're old school and you want to write a letter, that's also not a problem. You see our postal address right there. The postal address is for Princeton, New Jersey, USA. And that's it for me. Thank you very much. We'll open it up for questions, and I'll stop sharing my screen. There we are. Thank you. So Amelia and Alex, did you want to jump in and do some Q&A, or should we just jump in and answer the chat?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, feel free to go through the chat and, you know, answer the questions that you think maybe are more interesting for the people that are here. So feel free.
All questions are interesting.
Yeah, of course. But, that's a good point.
Okay, I've taken the liberty to like already answer to a couple of them. but there are a couple for there over there for you, Chris, perhaps.
So I see, is there an average TOEFL score for acceptance at IESE? Alex, I believe for the MEM and the MBA programs, you are looking for a total score of 100. Is that correct?
I'm in charge of the MBA, so I don't know if in the MIM they have the same score, some way to measure it. But let's assume that it's like that.
I think I had a look at your website before joining the session. I do believe it's 100 with, I believe, a recommended 105, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So, and just to kind of put it in perspective, what that total score means, that is really mapped to the C1 level on the CEFR scale, if that helps, basically. And like I said, because these section scores or total scores, a good strategy is to really focus on the writing and speaking, because with language assessment, usually if you're good at writing and if you're good at speaking, the other sections will also be quite high as well. Not all the time, but a good strategy and a good tip is always familiarize yourself with the types of questions that are being asked, because it is a standardized assessment and the questions will be asked in a certain way. So if you're not used to those types of questions, it might be worth just, like I said, going through the videos, having a look, doing some of the practice tests just to see where you fit, basically.
I think there is another question in here.
Yeah. Okay, Maria. You can hear me, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Maria, I believe for yes, if I'm not mistaken, as well, you can confirm this to me, Alex. You can help me out. For the Burville section of the GRE, a range of 143 and 170 is recommended for acceptance. Same for the quantitative section, also between 143 and 147 score. For the like the median score also for acceptance for the verbal section should be 156, and for the quantitative section should be 161. Maybe that's
yeah,
the case.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It is true that there's like we don't have like a minimum score that you have to get in order to be accepted at IESE. Okay, as we take into account different factors, different things when taking into account the application of a candidate. But it is true that, as Juan said, those are like the range that we usually get. Okay, so of course the better that you score is best for your application. But as I said, we take into account different things. So. And regarding the recording, we'll send it to all of you after the session to your email. So don't worry about it. So if you have missed some parts, you can go and check it in the recording that we'll send to your email.
And Alex, there's an interesting question here from Tamim. Can we use GRE score for English proficiency as well, or will they have to take both the tests?
Tamim, I can already tell you that the GRE is quite an academically advanced test. The language that it uses is quite advanced in English already, so it does not assess your proficiency in English. For that, of course, it'd be better if you stick to the TOEFL test. However, I can tell you that if you present a GRE score, it already will be more or less implied that you have a good level of English. However, of course, the best thing to show those kind of results is to take the TOEFL test as well. So Maria Stefania Ruiz, is the home online version of GRE available from any country? Indeed, it is. It is available all over the world. You just have to register for it online through your DTS account, and it's the exact same thing, the exact same format, everything. So it is available worldwide. have to worry about that. And then Maria, the other Maria, is asking, what is usually recommended for preparation time for the GRE? That is a very good question. I would recommend you to prepare with several months in advance. It is a hard test. So in order to like make very, very good use of the preparation tools that we offer, all those that were mentioned, at least a handful of months would be recommended for you to, well, to prepare. And of course for that, like register as early as possible, no? So you have as much time as possible to train very well, to get used to the questions, to get used to the test, to the structure, everything. As much time as possible would be recommended, sure.
And then I see, how do we add IESE as a recipient for TOEFL and GRE? So during the registration process, you'll have the ability to basically add institutions before you take the test. And from the TOEFL side, you can search, or you can use it. You can search by what we call a designated institution code. And I believe the DI code for the TOEFL tests for IESE is this one. So if you input this one, for instance, for TOEFL, it'll automatically find IESE, and then you can submit the scores. I think, Juan, I think the GRE code is a bit different. Let me just check really quick. I don't know if you know it off the top of your head, but this is the code for GRE. That's a good question.
Thanks very much for that, Chris. I was just checking that. But it's pretty much the same as Chris described. You can also select it prior to the test, and that's how they will get your GRE scores. Okay, for the discount, indeed, there is this QR code on the presentation it's going to be shared with you. So remember, the thing is that at the moment of registering for the GRE test, you're going to have the option to enter a discount code, which is, I'll write it on the chat. It is IESE 30. So that's just what you have to add to be able to get this discount. Right. So Ibu-kun was also asking about that. Does the discount code limited? I think it's for, it is the discount is for the test you're gonna be presenting. It I believe it has little to do with like how many schools will get your scores or anything. It before the price of the test you're gonna be taking.
So if you use the discount for IESE and you end up going somewhere else, and you should feel bad, because it's really only for IESE. You remember that.
Thanks for pointing it out, Chris. All right. Any more questions? We have like 5 minutes left, more or less. So...
Can we send scores to during the test, but before submitting the application? So it's really before you take the test. So during the registration procedure. You can then decide to send it afterwards, but you might have to pay an additional fee. I know they're trying to change that, but just keep that in mind. So it's always good to indicate the code during registration, so before you take the tests, Hernan. So that's a good question. Chris, is there any discount for the TOEFL test? I don't have any discounts with me, but I do know they do regularly publish discount codes on the social media channels. So for instance, if you can follow TOEFL on Facebook, on Instagram, these are regularly posted. So do keep an eye out on that. That's a good question. And in terms of Roni, what are all the numbers? What is for GRE and what is for TOEFL? I'm not sure I understand. Those are the DI codes, what we call DI codes. So as part, whenever you register for the test, if you're taking the TOEFL, you can input that number and then it automatically finds IESE. If you're taking the GRE and you input that number, it automatically finds IESE. So you know that they will receive the scores after you take the test.
Also for Tamim, for the prep material, for the tools that we offer to prepare for the GRE test, you can follow this website I just put on the chat. That's the same that appears in the presentation is going to be shared with you, and that's where you can find everything that everything about that we offer for the GRE preparation, the tools, the courses that we offer. This well, everything that you can find there is just on that website. Yep.
And I see another question from Alicia. Alicia, I think that is up to our wonderful admissions officers at the IESE. They'll have to answer that question for you.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on the regional associate director that you have. That he may exempt you of conducting another or doing another test, depending on your. Imagine if you have done the GRE test and you have like a really good score, that maybe this is a really good let's say way to tell him that you are already good, and maybe, who knows, he waives the TOEFL exam. I don't know, but this is up to the conversation that you may have with your associate director. So it's really up to him in this case.
So this question also from Maria about sending her application in January and perhaps getting her GRE results later on.
Okay.
How does that work?
This is a question for. So normally, many of the candidates don't have the official transcript or the official score whenever they are doing the application. So it's okay to have like a provisional score before having the official result. And then once you have it, you just submit it to our platform, to Embark, okay? And that's it, okay? So there is no problem. There is no further problem. Okay, that's right. Okay, I have, I just received an update. So there is an application an application fee, okay? Application fee waiver, okay? But there is no GRE or TOEFL waive, okay? These are things that are independent. So you can skip it, I'm sorry.
Okay, to Ibu-kun, yes, the fee, the reduction in the GRE test fee, or the discount, it is applied to the GRE normal fee, which right now, I believe it's the same in Spain. It's the same. It's $205. So if you use discount right now, you will get like $30 off of that price. The price is increasing. In the upcoming months. So it is better to register as soon as possible. I mean, to get this discount exclusive to IESE, you have to register for the exam before November the 18th. So you get such discount before the price increases. Yeah. I hope that's helpful, Ibu-kun.
I'm sure it is. Okay, I think it's, he says thank you, which is a good sign. Maybe we can go with this last question.
For this final one, what is an official score? No, I mean, it is in this, of course, the score that you get right after you complete the test. This one, I mean, shows you, of course, how well you did, but that is not the score that is going to be shown to your institutions. And that one consists in the verbal reasoning and the quantitative reasoning parts, since those are graded kind of like in the moment by the computer. Once you're done with those sections, you get a score. But it does not apply for the, or it's not the case of the writing part, since that has to be actually revised by humans, and it takes some time for it to be reviewed. Yeah.
Yeah, and for the TOEFL side, it's the listening and reading, because again, it's graded completely by the computer, so it'll give you an unofficial score. Of course, it always has to go through a review process just to make sure everything's okay, but that's why we call it unofficial. It's just right after the test session that you can see yourself.
Great. I just wanted to, before finishing, because it's just, I mean, we are on time right now. I want to point it out regarding the TOEFL and the relationship between TOEFL and GRE. So if you have studied at least 2 years in an English-speaking country, for example, your undergraduate has been, for example, in England, okay, and you have taken the courses in English, then for the application at IESE, you are waived of presenting a TOEFL score, okay? So, which is great. Or imagine that you are a native speaker of English speaker, of course, you are also waived of presenting the TOEFL. But for now, every applicant has to take the GRE, okay, or GMAT. So just to point it out, so we don't get confused whenever we are applying for an MBA. All right, so I think that's pretty much it. Thanks, Chris, Juan, for coming up today to this session and for leading.
Thanks to you.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming.
Our pleasure.
Thanks for attending.
And thanks to everyone, to all the participants that came here to listen and participate through their questions. Okay. See you soon.
See you soon.
Have a great day.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Have a good week, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.